Okay, this is lecture 9, and in this lecture, it goes right along with chapter 23 in your textbook, and we'll be talking about facility design, layout, and organization. Again, I will preface this by saying this is probably not the most interesting information that you're going to receive in this class, but it is important for the CSCS exam. And also, I'm hoping that, if you ever get in a situation where you will be in charge or will be a part of designing a strength and conditioning facility, you'll have this information to kind of look back on as some reference material for creating your design. So in terms of designing a new facility, there's 4 phases that we are going to look at in a little more detail. One being the pre-design phase, and what are you going to do to get yourself ready to develop a strength and conditioning design. Then the design phase, where you'll be working with an architect and several other professionals to make sure you're designing a adequate facility depending on the needs. The construction phase, where we'll actually be building the strength and conditioning facility. And then pre-operation phase. After the construction is completed, what are the things that we need to do to make sure that this facility will run smoothly and efficiently? So again, this is just kind of an overview slide. I would keep these things in mind as you start studying for your exam. But basically here we've got the pre-design phase, which includes a needs analysis, feasibility study, master plan, and then finally hiring an architect in that order. The design phase involves finalizing a committee or a group of people that are going to help us to work together to design the facility, and creating a blueprint of what we would like to be included in the design of the strength and conditioning facility, and how we're going to organize that based on the amount of space that you have. Next would be the construction phase, which will allow us to follow the master plan. Once that master plan has kind of been set in stone, then we can arrange our equipment and check construction progress as we move through the construction phase. And then the pre-operation phase, we've got to hire our staff. Again, that should probably be predetermined in terms of, how many people you need for each position and what their duties will be. So assigning duties and hiring staff can kind of work hand in hand. Probably before you even do that, we need to create a plan for operation. How many people do we need to have checking athletes in, how many people do we need to have coaching the athletes, and so on and so forth. And then creating a cleaning schedule that can be done by the staff that you've hired. Okay, so let's talk in a little more detail about the pre-design phase. So this phase will consist of, again, a needs analysis, feasibility study, and formation of a master plan. Needs analysis, what are the needs of the strength and conditioning facility? So the needs analysis is the step in which the designers and the experts are going to collaborate to determine the needs of the athletic programs that will be utilizing the facility. Examples of questions that they might look at would be, how much space do we need? Again, this can depend on how many athletes do you have, how many athletes are you going to be scheduling to come into the gym at any given time, how many, other students would be utilizing the facility at a given time, and that sort of thing. Also, what needs to fit into the allotted space that you have. So how many squat racks would we like to have? How many bicycles do we need? How many treadmills? And so on and so forth. So the needs analysis should be consistent with the philosophy of the strength and conditioning professional and also the athletic program as well. So those two things need to kind of merge together in order for us to create a efficient use of space. The second part of the pre-design study is called the feasibility study. And with the feasibility study, we're going to analyze both the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay? The goal of the feasibility study is to ensure that financial investment will yield a viable and sustainable return. Okay, so we need to look at what are the strengths of this particular design, what are the weaknesses of this design, how are these going to maximize our financial contributions that will be utilized in this project, and so on. Could also include a market evaluation to identify the best opportunity to train athletes most efficiently, as well as analyzing any competing facilities, target market, and growth potential. So again, we need to just kind of look at the pros and cons as a whole and get a good idea of, where we're going to get a sustainable return on our money as well. Okay. The formation of the master plan is kind of the last portion of this phase. And with the master plan, this is a general plan for all the phases of the new facility. So the master plan is going to include both our building and construction plan, facility design, budget information, and operational plan to act on once the facility is actually finished and running. This stage also includes the hiring of an architect. One with previous experience in the strength and conditioning industry is preferable. And then once we have this done, we're ready to move forward onto the design phase. Okay. In the design phase, the committee's ideas will come together with regard to the facility structure and design elements. So by this time, we should have a committee of people that are going to, I guess that's kind of the first stage, developing a committee of people that are going to work together to develop this strength and conditioning facility. So this committee should probably consist of an athletic director, your architect, probably if you have like a grounds and maintenance supervisor or something along those lines, that person should be involved. If you have someone related to business or something along those lines from a financial standpoint involved, that would also be an important person to have on this committee. Okay. It's extremely important to plan around the flow of the facility while adhering to all relevant regulations and codes. So again, we want to create a facility that's going to efficiently use the amount of space that we have and allow also our athletes to have an effective workout because they're not walking around the whole time trying to find one piece of equipment. We want to group our equipment appropriately according to its uses. Okay, now we're on to the construction phase. The construction phase is the period of time from the beginning of construction to the end of construction. That kind of makes sense to me, but that's the definition that's given in the book, so I guess that's what we need to know. So within this construction phase, we're going to try and keep the project on track in relation to any deadlines that we have set. So we want this facility to be open for the beginning of the 2017 school year. We need to keep the project on track related to deadlines, and this must become an important priority as the committee in order for us to ensure that we're going to open the facility in a timely manner. Delays may result in loss of potential revenue and possibly a lawsuit. Again, if we say we're going to open it in the 2017 school year, that's when we really should aim to get it opened. Okay, our pre-operation phase, we're going to finish with interior decor. And we are going to have some fun. We're going to hire some staff members. We're going to plan for staff development. So we need to train our staff. Also plan so that the opening of the facility is easy to be completed. And also plan for organization and administration of the clerical duties. So let's say we are using an existing strength and conditioning facility, and maybe we're going to remodel this or something. So the strength and conditioning professionals should assess existing equipment based on the needs of athletes and teams who are going to use the facility. Right? So if we are in fact going to remodel this particular gym or this particular strength and conditioning facility, we want to look at each piece of equipment and kind of analyze, is it getting used? How often is it getting used? Should it be used by certain groups of athletes? Is it not an effective piece of equipment? And so therefore we can kind of assess, what can stay and what we should get rid of as part of this remodel. So some of the steps to modifying an existing facility. So let's say you have a facility, you've received a grant to, remodel some of the things within your facility. What should we do? So first thing we're going to do is form a committee. Again, when we talked about the committee with designing a strength and conditioning facility, I would say that the committee for, remodeling a facility would probably be pretty similar. So we want our strength and conditioning coach, like our head strength and conditioning coach, on this committee. We certainly want our athletic director on this committee. We would like our grounds or maintenance director or supervisor on this committee as well. If we're working with an architect, he would also be on this committee, or she. And then possibly somebody with the financial information, someone from the business office, or someone over there. Okay. So they're going to be our committee. Again, we're going to do a feasibility study and a needs analysis, similar to what we did when we were developing our new facility as a whole. So again, things we want to kind of look at when looking to modify this. How many athletes are going to be using the facility? What are the training goals of these athletes, coaches, and administration? So that should be an important thing to look at. What are the demographics of the athletes? So are they older? Are they younger? Are they male, female, high school students, college students, professional students, and so on. So we can kind of cater to the needs based on the demographic of the people using the facility. What are the training experiences of the athletes? How experienced are they? If they're not experienced, maybe we want to have more machines instead of free weights. If they're highly experienced, maybe we want to have more free weights, squat racks, those types of things. So it depends on that. How will the athletes be scheduled? So scheduling of athletes can be super difficult to do. Again, if any of you have used our strength and conditioning room at Loras College, it's very difficult to get in there if the football team is in there. So scheduling athletes, particularly teams and that sort of thing, can be an issue that way. What equipment needs to be repaired or modified? Again, if none of the equipment needs replaced, maybe we just need to repair a couple things, so that this will all be done as part of a needs analysis. Second step, we're going to create an operational plan. Okay, in our second steps, we're going to create an operational plan, remodel or upgrade if needed, again, depending on how, what type of shape our equipment is in, and then finalize design and decorations as well. Last step in existing modifications of a facility, we want to arrange our equipment in a effective organizational way. We also need to create employee duties and a schedule, and hire and keep staff when necessary. Okay, so again, I kind of already mentioned these on the previous slide, but some of the questions we should think about when assessing our athletic program needs. How many athletes will be using the facility? So again, this is super important when we need to consider the facility size, and also the total number we need to look at the total number of athletes that are going to use it per week, per day, per season, and so on. Again, sometimes we're limited by how big the facility can be, and this is kind of thrown to the wayside. I think at Loras we could definitely use a bigger facility based on the busy times of day in which we have teams utilizing the facility. But in terms of feasibility, it doesn't necessarily make sense for us to grow this particular area. What are the training goals of our athletes, coaches, and administration? So this will affect what type of equipment we utilize for the facility. Okay, what are the demographics of our athletes? Again, are we looking at older users, younger? Is it male, female, high school students, college students, professional students? For example, if the facility is primarily for older populations, we may not want to use as much free weight equipment. We might want to have more machines because that would be a little bit safer for them. Again, if it's a collegiate or team environment, the use of equipment may be more efficient if it's grouped into sections so that multiple groups can work simultaneously, at the same time. So again, we need to look at what types of athletes are going to be utilizing our facility as well. What's the training experience of our athletes? Again, this is kind of also related to demographics, you could say. But we need to kind of look at this so that the strength and conditioning professional can understand what his or her training plans will be, which will in turn dictate which type of equipment they will need as well. Training will vary, again, according to the experience of the athletes. Athletes who haven't lifted before might need more machines as compared to more advanced athletes who would be able to be utilizing, the squat racks and free weights a little bit more regularly. How will athletes be scheduled? The scheduling of athletes or groups of athletes is probably one of the most difficult aspects of running a facility. The number of people on staff, the layout, the design of the facility can all be affected by athletes' schedules. So again, if one or more group will be using the facility at one time, it would make sense to kind of divide the facility into sections so that the amount of overlap between those two groups is kind of limited. So again, if we've got both the baseball team and the softball team utilizing the facility at the same time, could we split the facility so that, you can get everything you need from your half of the facility without interfering with the other team? That would be ideal if we're going to have more than one team in there at a time. What equipment needs to be repaired or modified is probably the last thing we need to look at in terms of, assessing what's going to go into our facility. So designing the strength and conditioning facility, we need to consider the location. Ideally, it should be located on the ground floor away from offices and classrooms. If any of you have ever been in a facility that is like above a classroom and you were in the classroom underneath, you could probably hear people like screaming and dropping weights, and it could be super distracting. So that's something we would like to not have occur. We would like the strength and conditioning facility to be on the basement level or on the ground floor so that they're not going to distract people in classrooms or offices that would be underneath them. Supervision should be in a central location in the facility with a clear line of sight and mirrors providing an opportunity to look out and see everyone. So essentially we would like to supervise the entire facility to ensure safety throughout the facility. Okay. In terms of access, the facility should be accessible to persons with disabilities with either a ramp or a wheelchair lift for any height change that exceeds 0.5 inches or 1.3 centimeters. Okay, so a ramp should run 12 inches for every 1 inch rise. So again, that has to do with the grade, I guess, of the ramp that you'll be utilizing here. Steps should have a rough strip on the edge to prevent anyone from falling in case we have like slick shoes. So again, this is just an example down here of the different grades we could use. Certainly, you know, a lower grade is going to be better for someone in a wheelchair, but we don't want it to be sharper than 12 inches across and 1 inch up and down. Okay, so that's like the steepest we would possibly want it to be. Okay, ceiling height. Height should be high enough for jumping and explosive activities. This includes athletes' height plus the space required for box jumps, vertical jumps, or Olympic lifts. A recommended height is between 12 to 14 feet, which should give us enough clearance to allow people to perform these activities comfortably without having to worry about hitting their heads or their hands or whatever during the activity. Flooring, the best or the most common type of flooring would be rubber flooring or antifungal carpet. Another option would be indoor turf. Ideally, weightlifting platforms should be made of wood. This provides a sturdy, smooth surface that can prevent slipping or shoes getting caught on the edges or anything like that. Environmental factors, the facility's lighting should include artificial and natural lighting if possible. Lights should be between 50 and 100 lumens, depending on the height of the ceiling and the amount of natural light that's available. A strength and conditioning facility needs to maintain a comfortable training temperature between 68 and 78 degrees. Relative humidity should not exceed 60%. So again, it should probably be air conditioned in the summer. Again, if you think about, you know, if it gets too humid in there, the issue becomes your equipment's going to get rusty too quick. So we want to really avoid that. We also don't want our athletes to be having environmental issues while they're lifting weights. So we don't want it to get too hot or too humid in this room so that it would prevent our athletes from being able to perform in the weight room the way they should be performing in the weight room. So we want to eliminate environmental limitations while they're working out. Okay, electrical service, strength and conditioning facility typically requires more outlets than most buildings do. Some of these outlets require higher voltage for more powerful equipment, such as our Stairmasters, elliptical, treadmills, those types of things. So we need a lot of outlets in the area where we're going to put our cardio equipment, and these outlets need to be able to power high voltage types of equipment. Okay, mirrors should be placed at least 6 inches away from any equipment and a minimum of 20 inches above the floor. I definitely remember this being a question on the CSCS exam, was mirror placement and how far away they should be from the floor and that type of stuff. So definitely know like all these weird numbers if you're taking the CSCS. Other considerations, we should have drinking fountains for our athletes. They should be located away from the training area. Also, NSCA recommends having showers in the building. This will help us to prevent the spread of infectious disease and colds, those types of things. Okay, where should our equipment be placed? Equipment should be grouped in sections such as a stretching area, a warm-up area, agility and plyometric area, free weights, aerobic area, and resistance area. Free weights and racks should be organized against the wall. Walkways between the free weights and machines should exist. That would allow us to easily access either those free weights or those machines. This allows for improved flow through the weight room, prevents congestion, and maximizes space for more use. Our cardio equipment should be kind of in their own section. Again, at Loras College, they get kind of their own floor, essentially. So the top floor, we've got our treadmills, ellipticals, and so on. Those should be grouped separately. So like all the treadmills go together, all the bikes go together, all the ellipticals go together. Also, barbells and dumbbells should have a minimum of 36 inches of space between them to allow movement between the racks without danger to the lifters and spotters. So again, we want things to be spaced out in a way in which we're not going to injure others who are lifting beside us. Safety and function are top priorities when one is deciding on where to place any type of equipment. So again, keep that in mind when you're organizing the strength and conditioning facility. Traffic flow. Traffic flow is heavily influenced by equipment placement. Again, you think about what are the common items that people are going to utilize in your gym. And again, this can depend highly on the demographic and the types of people you've got using the gym. Maybe it even depends on what time of day. Maybe in the morning you have more people that are utilizing treadmills, and maybe in the afternoon we have more people that are doing plyometrics and squatting and using dumbbells and so on and so forth. So traffic flow is heavily influenced by equipment placement. So, people are going to heavily travel to the areas where they're going to use, those particular pieces of equipment. Most facilities are one big room, and walkways can be created or manipulated by the arrangement of the equipment. So again, think about traffic flow. Let's say treadmills and the squat rack are the two most commonly used pieces of equipment in our gym. We don't want those to be right beside each other. We want to manipulate, those items so that those heavily used items are kind of spaced out a little bit further. Okay, so now we're going to talk just briefly about some of these specific areas within the strength and conditioning facility. So we said we would like to have a stretching or a warm-up area. This should be at least 49 square feet of open space so that the athlete can perform a dynamic warm-up. In our facility, we kind of use the hallways as our stretching or warm-up area. That will give us enough room out there so that we can do these dynamic stretches. There should be enough room so that multiple people can use this area at the same time. So it shouldn't be so small that only one person could do stretching in this particular area. In our gym, on the upper level, we do have a small area for stretching. Again, I see people doing like core work there and static stretching. I would say most of you probably do dynamic stretching in the hallways before you start your exercises, and that works for our facility. Again, it's probably a little smaller than we would like it to be, but we make it work with being able to do that in the hallways. Circuit training. So with circuit training, we're talking mostly about, strength training machines. So these should be placed 24 inches, preferably 34 inches apart in order to provide adequate walking space. So this would allow our athletes to be able to walk in between these pieces of equipment. Safety cushion. This definition of safety cushion is the extra space, which would be beyond 36 inches, that helps us to provide a safe environment. So again, if we have these items more than 36 inches away from each other, that's the ideal placement, because that's going to create the safest environment for us. We also want to have designated walkways in this area that should be between 4 to 7 feet wide. That will provide us with some room so that we can adequately move about through this particular area. Our free weights, again, as we mentioned, they need to be 36 inches away. Racks and dumbbells should be lined up against a wall, at least 36 inches between the ends of our racked bars. Kettlebells, we can do a few things with those. We can put them underneath our dumbbell racks, or they can have their own area, probably depending on how many of those we have. But we do need to have an area that's pretty big that we can utilize our kettlebells in, because kettlebells are generally going to require dynamic full body movements. Our weightlifting area, we've got racks and platforms. These should be spaced out enough so that if someone falls, nearby lifters would not be injured. Okay, so they should have between 3 to 4 feet of walk space between them. Okay. The weightlifting standards or racks should be bolted to the floor to ensure that it does not move when they're in use. And again, we use some of these racks for, pull-ups and those types of things as well, or, something where you're hanging, doing some type of ab exercise as well. So we really want these to be sturdy. We do not want one of these coming down, so they should be bolted to the floor. Okay, arranging our equipment within the aerobic area. Our cardiorespiratory machines, as we mentioned, should have their own section, and this is how our strength and conditioning facility is set up. So, we've kind of got everything organized. So we want to have all the treadmills together, all the ellipticals together, stair machines together, and the bikes together. Again, this is just an organizational thing to have them all grouped in similar areas. Okay, this is a summary chart for you in terms of how much space each type of equipment needs in between it. Okay, so bikes need to be spaced 24 square feet apart, stair steppers 24 square feet apart, skiers 6 feet apart, rowing machines 40 feet apart, treadmills 45. Okay, so now we've got things organized. Now we're going to move forward and talk about maintaining cleaning surfaces with our equipment. So checklist for cleaning floors. We need to check for large cracks and standing dirt or grime. Check for splinters and breaking on the platforms. Check any bolts or screws that go into the floor. Ensure that no glue is extruding from the floor. Ensure that the floor is that should be sturdy and locked in place, and check the carpet for mold, mildew, or tears. Okay, for cleaning the walls, we want to check for dirt buildup, replace mirrors if they're cracked, the clean mirror of smudges at least once a week. I think any smudges should be cleaned every day. I hate when there's smudges on the mirrors. We don't have mirrors in our strength and conditioning facility, but most facilities do have mirrors, and I think they should be cleaned every day. I hate when there's smudges on them. Clean the windows for smudges at least once weekly. Dust windowsills, any shelvings items weekly. Mirrors, again, should be at least 20 inches off the ground. Okay. Cleaning for the ceilings, ensure that the lights work properly, check for dust and cobweb buildup, ensure that nothing attached to the ceiling is loose, replace ceiling tiles as soon as possible when needed. So, if we had some sort of water leak and those need to get replaced, let's get them replaced. Ceiling should be at least 12 feet high to ensure clearance. Again, I think on one of the previous slides, it recommended 12 to 14 feet. So scheduling frequent maintenance and cleaning ensures safe training, protects investments, and maintains strength and conditioning facilities appearance. Again, this is super important not only from a safety standpoint, but if you think about, Loras College as a recruitment issue, this is probably pretty important. I think, a lot of students come to Loras College to play basketball or to play soccer or, to participate in a sport. And so keeping these facilities clean when they're on their recruiting visits are super important for us because it makes us look good, or it can make us look bad. So we want this to be a positive experience when they're here on their recruiting trips as well. All right, so this is the end of Lecture 9. Lecture 10 will be posted here shortly for you as well. And your exam over these 2 online lectures will be once we get back from fall break. I will also post a study guide for you for these 2 lectures. It will probably not be until Wednesday or possibly Thursday that I will get that posted for you. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon.